A lot of us probably wonder how much money our schools spend on average on our students' education, but have you ever thought about why? Most of the time, but not all the time. It has nothing to do with the districts being greedy with money, but it has something to do with how much the state depends on each district, what exactly they spend that money on, like programs, classes, and etc.
Go.
Research tells us that some of the states in the U.S. like to pick and choose what they pour their money into when it comes to schools. For example, some of their schools' fund goes to wealthy/middle class students rather than equal shared between wealthy, middle, and lower class students. That means that there is way less money being put down on programs for lower class students, and especially low academic students. In fact, there is about a $23 billion money gap between white and non-white schools. There's also a dramatic difference between high and low-end income schools. What about the inner city schools?
Inner city schools rely heavily on government funding, but for some reason they receive less funding compared to suburban schools. What that means is that inner city schools have to depend only on the available funds they get when taxes are collected, but that isn't too often. Many teachers around the country lost their jobs or a job opportunity because when the schools lower their per pupil rates, it lowers the amount of teachers they hire and have in the school. That leaves some of these teachers to teach larger classrooms that have on average 48 students. That's a lot of shitheads to teach in one class. Lack of funding can also cause insufficient classes, underpaid teachers, teachers who aren't sufficiently trained, lack of supervision, a lack of or poor quality textbooks, and a lack of other learning supplies. It's said that Norway is known to have spent the most money on their schools, but honestly it looks like America's headed towards Norway's level.
Over the last few years, America's per pupil spending rate has went up. It's actually tripled. Despite the decrease in funds and tax revenues, we now stand at an all-time high. America spends more on per pupil for primary and secondary schools than any majorly developed in the nation, in the world. Schools have become more spacious recently, and there's also reports that now only 3 to 4% of schools are in poor condition. America should keep up the good work because it's starting to look like they actually give a shit about our schools.